Okay, guys, we're starting now. Shall we? Thank you for coming to the talk. This is called Exciting New Ideas in AI. And me and Bhishma have titled it Inside the Takeoff What is Actually Happening? And let me first give you a bit of introduction. My name is Aditya Prasad. Some of you already know me. I've been working with the Center for Effective Altruism as coordinating field building in AI safety across the country. I've been advising projects like Portal, running the UT alignment retreat, and we'll talk a lot more about these things. I am currently working with groundless alignment. We had a org fair today morning. Some of you came to ask me questions. Mic's not on? Okay. Hello? Okay. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to talk to you about my inside view into this landscape right now. I'll give the thing to
Hello.
Bhishma.
So yeah, hi guys, I'm Bhishma. So I work in tech. I've been into AI safety for the last 3-4 years. Earlier I was skeptical of the entire thing, but now I've gotten more worried how things are going. But yeah, maybe there's like a brighter side to all this, and we are figuring out like this talk will be about our journey, me and Aditya's, like how we look at it, and it's like an invitation to how others can also um, reason and take action. So let's get started.
So I think one good way to get started is to take a minute to just sit in silence. I often use this to make sure that we are actually embodied and we are not getting stuck in our heads too much. In these kinds of talks, it can be very easy to forget that these are real things that are happening. It's not just fun ideas to talk about. This is an actual companies building these technologies. They're available for you to use. So I invite you to just take a deep breath and notice your entire body. Thank you, guys. So let's jump right in. What is this talk about? So this talk, like Bhishma said, we're going to be walking through some of the most salient stuff that's happening in the landscape of AI. And like I said, we're inside the takeoff, so to speak, that things are happening very rapidly. If you zoom out, things that look continuous right now might look quite like a rapid exponential curve in the scale of things. So we would like to take you on a journey and point out some of the most interesting things that you think we would like to observe. So let's start with some disclaimers. We might be wrong here. We are not claiming to have all the answers. Uh, the best way to actually find out these things is to have skin in the game, run your own experiments, uh, make up your own mind, and do your own research. And
Yeah. So we want to have humility or epistemic humility. We are not taking sides. Uh, like, okay, this is right or this is wrong. We're just observing and we're explaining what worked for us. There might be some biases or it's very contextual, like what we are gonna discuss. So we don't want things to be taken out of context. So it's just a normal disclaimer and major disclaimer. All these views are my own. They don't reflect my employer.
what a week, huh? And Captain says it's just Wednesday. And this is often how we feel when we are keeping in touch with what's going on in AI. Like every few days, a new model comes out, a new benchmark is saturated, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Some people don't like to even hear about these things because it's just so overwhelming to be this close to the metal.
So yeah, these are like rundown of what's been happening. Like
Like just an example of, yeah, GPT-3. came out in 2020. It's not that far ago, like 5 years. GPT-4, 2023. O1. Some of you might have remembered how expensive O1 was. And it was amazing for that level of intelligence. O4 mini. It's April 25.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like we're kind of numb, like where just a few months, some random model comes, people hype, some people say something is bad, we just go along with it. But we just want to take a bird's eye view of, hey, like where did it all start, and is this fine? Is this normal, or does what does it all mean? So it's like there's a lot of happening in like a very short span, and as humans we have some. There's a word.
Scope and sensitivity.
Yeah, exactly. I was on a previous talk here, and someone was talking about scope insensitivity, which is a fancy way to say humans get numb to numbers. Like we have a very weird sense of numbers in the sense we focus on like certain things, like, and then we are not very objective about how time or numbers flow through. And just like a month back, we got like bigger and bigger models which do more stuff.
And it's hard to really test these models' capabilities because after a point, you start getting really good at writing. You have to start using these models for extended periods of time to get a sense of where they're like benchmarks don't tell the full story. Like people do think 5.2 doesn't have the right like compared to Opus 4.5. It depends on what tasks you're gonna use. So the limitations of our ability to really evaluate these models are coming to light. But we can say that there is.
Yeah. So in the midst of all this, like, what are some objective things we can look at, right? Like, because every day Twitter says something, like someone posts a YouTube video, like influencers. So what are some concrete things we can look at? So one is follow the money, right? Like this is like a very popular graph that gets thrown around where, so these are the big players. You see like Nvidia, OpenAI, all the usual suspects. Just they just like invest among themselves, and that in turn raises their stocks. And so there's value or like evaluation getting created without directly getting involved in the economy. And that seems to be like a common pattern now. But then this is like a very concrete metric people can look at because it's public. So even if you don't fall for the hype, at least look at, hey, what are the big deals that are happening? Like, why is that happening? And does it even make sense? So that's one signal that you can look at. The next one is, yeah, like to run these models, you need energy. And this is a graph which shows like data center power consumption, construction spending. And that has been like skyrocketing a lot. And most of it is for AI. And yeah, like this is another concrete metric, which goes, like this has been also causing a lot of displacement, like water shortage and energy crisis. So look at the physical infrastructure that is needed. One is capital, second is infrastructure. So then, yeah,
This is like a graph showing how fast the cost of these tokens are falling. I think people don't really realize how much cheaper the same level of intelligence is over the last year or so, and it's approximately around 300 times cheaper. And this is amazing because a lot of things that were previously not financially possible are now possible. Like I wouldn't have hired a translator to translate everything for me when I'm in Japan. But then with Google Translate, I'm now doing that. So there's so many things that are not captured by GDP that is now being made possible because of cheap access to LLM intelligence. And this is something I keep coming back to, which is that keep track of the cost, the speed, the latency, the bandwidth, adoption. All these parameters are very much worth keeping track of when it comes to AI adoption.
yeah. Any questions? Like,
You can use Swapcard to keep posting questions in the live interaction. You can also interrupt us, raise your hand if you feel called to
yeah.
push back. We're a small group here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to. It's a rhetoric, like we're not being very.
300 times cheaper. So the price, that's dollars per million tokens. That's the
Average.
fastest.
It's the
So this,
average.
yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how you plot the curve, you can get.
So those are three lines are basically like what level of intelligence you want. So the most steepest one is like a 4.0 level. So 4.0 is like a simple model, and that to get like 4.0 level of intelligence as time progresses, it's dropping at like 900x per year. So the slope is like very steep for a cheap intelligence, but even for like much more powerful like GPT-4 level intelligence, it's like 40x. So as time progresses, you get GPT-4 level intelligence for like 40x price reduction. So that's what this means, and 300 is like the average across. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
So yeah, I mean, one of the main ways people make sensors is using evaluation. So this is an benchmark called Humanity's Last Exam. It's named this way because it supposedly has to be hard, but looks like we are already at like 37ish, and it's not even like it's just been a year or so since this benchmark got published. And what it's saying is like whenever we try to put out a benchmark saying, hey, only humans can do this, or this is very hard, we've been like mostly wrong. Things have been progressing. So uh, benchmarks is one of the signals you can look at, but even they saturate. And what saturation means is like um, if a exam is so simple, right? Like if I just ask you guys, if I evaluate you guys on addition, it doesn't say much because everyone gets like 100 or 99, whatever. So that is called saturation, where the task is too easy. So you can't distinguish the models based on an easy exam. So so these evaluations are one piece of the puzzle, but they can't reveal the full picture. So yeah, okay, this one is
It is hard to read. Maybe you can zoom in.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go a bit before that. I'll explain what this is about. So there is this. How many of you guys seen this graph?
Yeah. If you could raise your hands.
Like,
Okay.
okay. So
One
this.
person.
Okay.
4, 5, 6.
Oh shit. Okay.
Bunch of people have seen this.
Yeah. So
It's
this
a very
has
famous app.
become like a poster child for like progress. Uh, like a lot, it's referred everywhere. So we just want to spend a couple of minutes walking you guys through this because you'll see this around in like a lot of discussions on AI progress. So TLDR is this says a way. I mean, the main point that they're trying to say is um, the time. Like let's say, like so if you just evaluate a model based on how good it answers, that's not like good. That's not how humans do stuff. Like we have much more complicated tasks, and where we have to do a bunch of things. So what these guys have done is, hey, instead of just looking at how good the model answers, can we just use human time needed to finish a task as the prime metric? So that is the intuition behind creating this slide, where if a human takes more time to finish a task, then that's a complicated task. And what this means is like as time progresses, AI is doing more and more tasks, longer tasks. So that is why it's called like the long horizon tasks graph. So the x-axis is the date where LLMs release, and y-axis is like um, the longest task that the model can do with like 50% probability. But so I'll go a bit like deeper into this because it is kind of important. So what they do is they take a bunch of uh, tasks, they ask the humans to do it, they ask the AI also to do it, and then now so you have this data. That is this data you started with. So so for instance, like look at this task, right? Like fix failing pipelines, and a human maintainer takes like 5 minutes, and GPT-4o's score is like 0.35. Is it visible? Yeah. And so you have this bunch of data where each model has some score, and then you have like how much time a human does it. So this is the data that they're dealing with. So you have a few more tasks. Like it's again, there's a bias here where it's usually software engineering or like technical tasks. It's not like um, It's not like, okay, book a ticket or it's not like all tasks. It's
And it's
more like,
worth mentioning that humans with context and humans are
yeah.
external baseline. Both are extremely different.
Yeah, yeah. As you can see, like someone with understanding has like pretty less. So I don't want to go too much into detail, but to get a crux, it's like they basically collect data set, something like this. Like you take a battery of tasks, you ask a human to do it, measure how much time they took, and you give it to a model and see how good it performed. So from this, you get something like this. No, that's not very relevant. It is, but that's not what we are evaluating here. We just want, yeah, model can solve it. Which one? Where? No, that's like a pull request score. So these are GitHub issues. So yeah, but again, that's it's not very relevant to this. Yeah, yeah. So this is the so you do 5 trials, and in how many of the trials it got it right or like yeah. Haha, it can generate, but you also verify if it's actually solved. Yeah, yeah,
If it's actually solving the
yeah.
problem.
Any other question? But yeah, the high you get this data, and then you kind of fit a curve saying for so here the y-axis is success probability where so you take the table and then you just put the table in this graph format and then you see for 50% chance what is like the average human task that could have been. So that is what this uh, the main graph says. So here what you see is like uh, so on the y-axis you have different tasks, and this is like the um, so to get 50% accuracy in this task, you need that much amount of time.
And this is really important because it really helps us evaluate the real risks of AI, because when a model is able to autonomously work on long horizon tasks that would take teams of people weeks, that's when you're in the territory of the model being able to maybe train its own architecture, start changing things rapidly, right?
So these are usually harnesses, like you have the test, you also have an environment, and it's automated. The verification would be human made, but it's not like the details don't matter. It's just like you have all these tasks, and you also have an environment. You let the agent, and the agent will run for some time, and you finally look at the output that's generated. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think maybe you should take it offline. We'll discuss.
We
Yeah.
can discuss how.
So yeah, we spent a lot of time on this because this shows, as you can see, the later the models that are getting released, the tasks that they can do, the duration of the task that they can do is also been increasing, and it's sort of exponential. So they have this notion of doubling time where, so right now it's at 2 hours duration. So and the doubling time is apparently now 7 months. So 7 months from that time, it can do like 4 hours worth of human tasks. And these are not, okay, the one caveat is this is not all tasks, it's a battery of tasks that they've used, which is software engineering. But still, it gives you a good representation of how fast things are moving. Oh, that's like the best model. Like, so it's like
At any point of
in
time,
that x-axis
you
time,
take
you what is like the best model?
the
Like,
top model.
yeah, top model, and then you just fit that. Yeah. So humans provide value in how long human took to complete it. Again, they took a bunch of experts. So um, ideally, you want the fastest human to finish. That's like a good estimate. So I assume they did. So this is you can go and read about this. There's a entire organization called METR, and they conducted the study. So you can read more the details. Yeah,
Cool.
and Yeah, but then, okay, you see all this, but then why don't the stats show? So what you see here is a graph of horses population versus cars. I mean, horses used for transportation versus cars production in the US. And the red one is the horses. So as you can see, horses were like pretty like well used or like popular. But then when cars started, like nothing seemed to be making a dent. But then in a span of like 20, 25 years, it just like skyrocketed. So there's usually a lead time. And this was a blog post by Andy Jones who compared this like similar to how horses kind of went. So that is the me diagram where he thinks we are on the precipice of this fall. So what we are trying to say is like the final effects of these take time because they depend on other factors like adoption, regulation, and stuff. But
And even organization structure, like a lot of the way we do tasks haven't been optimized for how AI gets integrated. So the organization structures are going to take time to adapt to. When computers first came off, it wasn't clear how computers would provide productivity, how would internet provide productivity. You can look back in history for all of these cases, like how much time did adoption take and how fast did the adoption go. So they say the future is here, but unevenly distributed is often said.
yeah,
Yes. The number of
millions.
population, 20 million, 25 million, it's all millions.
Yeah, millions. So yeah, you can take this.
Yes, so far we have been observing things. We've been trying to notice some factual. So people in the bubble, so to speak, are aware of all of this. We talk about this all the time. We keep tweeting about this, and it can be overwhelming to have to consume a whole fire hose of tons of data. So the reason we started with these many slides is just to give you guys some salient pieces of factual information like money, adoption, benchmarks, and we're asking you to train your ability to observe. And this is a framework called the OODA loop. And the OODA loop is about observing, orienting, deciding, and acting. And the idea is if you can do this and keep iterating, you can converge and you can stay grounded. And in a world which is dynamically changing, rapidly changing, it's very chaotic, it is good to practice an OODA loop. So this entire talk is going to start in this framework of OODA loop, and we've gone through a bunch of things that hopefully you can point to as interesting things to observe. Uh, any questions so far? What's the energy level like? I guess confused. Would love feedback too. If you want to change the speed, maybe slow down, go faster. It's good?
Cool. Yeah, next yours.
Next. Okay, so next we're gonna go into like the one after observe, as you can see, is orient. Now what does orient mean? There are many common orientations, and I want to just point out the feeling of orienting when you're entering a room, right? You're first making sense of, okay, where am I? And you position yourself. You take a posture, and you have a certain posture by which you deal with this. And I would say that these are the three common orientations that people fall into. One is a certainty, when they're like, it's all fine, guys. Nothing's gonna happen. People keep saying all is gonna get over, food's gonna run out. We have heard this many times over. Business as usual, let's just go forward, be optimistic, accelerate, we're gonna make it. That's very certain. There's also another type of certainty, which is like, what's the point? We're all gonna die. There's no point doing anything. It's inevitable. We're gonna die. There's also certainty. And I think you should notice that certainty is not useful. It's like you're disempowering yourself. You're basically being like, I don't wanna be a part of this. I'm gonna just commit to this bit and just let the world use me as a tool. And that's not very EA of us. EA means one of the core values is agency, right? So that's one orientation I would not want you to have. The second orientation is external LOC, which is external locus of control. And this is a common idea in psychology, where you have a locus of control and you put it outside yourself. You're like, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I have nothing to do. I'm gonna like expect someone else will solve the problem. You know, someone who is smarter than me, who has more abilities. I'm gonna watch them do it. And even that orientation, I think, is not gonna work because it's very contagious. And we are some of the most privileged people in India right now, and we have a lot that we can do. And we'll come to that when it comes to ACT. But I would encourage you to try to consider your actual situation and calibrate. And the same thing comes for no slack, which is another situation that often comes up in conversations. They're like, you have privilege, you have money, you have skills. I don't have that. I need to get a job. I need to make my parents happy. So the slack is something that in your head you might have a story around your constraints, and you really buy into those constraints, and you are trapped by those constraints. Uh, so I don't want to say there's no one who doesn't have slack. People do struggle with real social and psychological constraints. The thing is that we can navigate out of them. We can plan for building up savings, reducing expenses, having conversations with our friends and family, convincing them that you're making a career choice that's actually meaningful and impactful. And so there are ways out of that. And I would also encourage you not to just stay there and be okay with not having slack. So these are like common child-like orientations.
I mean, I'll take a small break in uh, doing this. So the way I see the OODA loop is, imagine like you have Google Maps and I just want to eat, like, or I'm hungry. So there are like a bunch of steps that you go through, right? Like, so the way I think of OODA loops is basically observe is, yeah, like you just know where are the spots. Orient is, what do I want to eat? Like maybe Chinese or like Italian or just ice cream. So that is the orient where you, out of all these options, I need to triage and set, hey, okay, right now I feel like this. And decide is like, okay, now I finished, I finalized Italian or something. There are like so many options, like so many places. Then I need to rank that, and then once I do that, I need to find like a best path. Like, okay, this area is crowded. There's like so many factors. So you need to have that hierarchical step, and we are applying the same analogy for how you can make sense of AI progress. So just that's the quick thing. And one of the orientation that has helped me is so this is like, a lot happening, but imagine there are like three components, right? Like, so you have the economy, which is like you produce something, you buy something, which stores the value, and then there's culture, which is like intangible, like human nature, like and historical patterns, and you have state. State is institution, governments, and so what this diagram depicts is it's from a paper called Gradual Disempowerment, and which I've been exploring recently a lot. What it states is, hey, AI can do great things, but also the way it progresses leads to certain dynamics between these three nodes. So one is like if your economy is like um, it, yeah, I mean, the common trope is AI is going to take all jobs or it's going to create like extreme concentration. So when that happens, then you don't like few people will hold a lot of power, and that will affect the state. And the same way, like if state gets less powerful, then it will create a feedback loop of a few powerful people taking over like more control. So, uh, so this diagram says like how these three components function, and I've used this framework to orient myself for how I see AI. So again, like all these are like different ways of orienting. Like as Aditya gave a few options, I'm also looking. I'm looking at it through this frame. Like, what does it mean for culture? Um, like I had a friend who was making AI companion apps, and so yeah, like that affects culture, right? Like now, do humans prefer AI companions over humans? What does it mean? Or states, if states can monitor people a lot, or they inject AI into every aspect of lives, like what does it mean? So this is a way for me to orient. So in the same way, you would have different maps.
I could also maybe speak a little bit about these three trifecta. The economy, the way I see it, is about turning natural resources into commodities that people consume. The state gets a monopoly on violence, maybe to enforce order on society, and culture is which legitimizes the state. The culture tells us what democracy means, or does monarchy make sense. A lot of what our values comes from what is truth, what is moral, and these three is a great way to look at what's going on, and the orientation We are also running 15 minutes left, so maybe we should just quickly wind this. Yeah, we should go move faster. But that's a very interesting, really worth going deeper into. Find me later and we can chat more about that trifecta. And the middle way, oh, it's 4:37.
Half an hour.
Oh, nice. We have time.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Continue.
So, okay, so we talked a little bit about orientations that are not ideal. And when you're orienting, I encourage you to try to notice the extremes of having certainty or being completely like, oh, I don't know anything, towards being okay with uncertainty, being okay with the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't have all the answers. And to be an adult means to take responsibility for the situation we find ourselves in with all the inheritance we have gotten from our parents' generation. And I think this involves being serious about this and looking at the empirical results, making falsifiable claims, and moving forward with conviction and strength. So that's orient. And the next one would be decide. And the way I often describe decide is you need to understand what your context is, right? Where is your leverage? What are your constraints? What are your affordances? We all have various counterfactual options available to us. So before you go into the act side, which is when you execute and implement and get feedback from reality, which is when you actually make touch with reality, it is good to consider that, okay, I've observed this is happening in reality. I've oriented myself properly. Now I see that I have all these options in front of me. I can have impactful giving. I can give money to these charities. I can form communities with my friends. So in decide, what I did at least, I can only, at this point it gets much harder to talk about this as a normative stance because each of us have our own journeys here. And what we can do maybe is describe how we did it. When we are faced with such a hard world, with a lot of animal suffering, with a lot of craziness, where people are rushing towards building these really powerful AI no one seems to want. Some of us want, maybe, kind of. How did I orient myself? How did I decide what to do? I was in the middle of a PhD program in Indian Institute of Science. I was awarded the Prime Minister's Research Fellowship. We got like a lot of funding. I was in the CDS department, which is also working on like supercomputers, and it was really fun to live in this nice, beautiful campus in Bangalore. But I was not feeling like it was actually tracking the real problems in the world. It felt a bit like the papers we're publishing or the research we were doing weren't fast enough. The research takes a lot of time to publish, it's very careful, but the companies are not waiting for any of the academia to catch up. The governments are moving very slow. So I had to consider my options, and I started working part-time, took up more of a freelancer consultant role, started traveling a lot, and it is not that fun to change time zones every few days, and it's very exhausting. You have financial instability when you don't have like a stable income from a company. So that's what I did. I looked at my skills in communicating, in inspiring, in community building, and I picked a role of running events in India, of mentoring people towards making impactful careers. And I continue to try my best to decide and then act and keep the loop running.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a few minutes. So, yeah, same way how Aditya figured out his path. Like, I think here is where I think the first two parts are slightly easy because you're just like passive. You're just okay. And during like decide, you have to like you have to make like hard choices, or you can't do everything. You can do like few things. So this will require like some self retrospective, what worked for you, what didn't. And I realized, yeah, like I'm like tech stuff and not more people stuff. But I do think raising awareness or getting, um, like we need more diverse people looking at this issue. Right now, the main problem is um, like this extreme powerful technologies in like hands of a few, and then everyone gets to know it late. Like I have a hunch that the labs are like 6 months or like ahead. So and uh, when you're in these Twitter spaces, you get to sense these rapid progress. But then there's a huge information asymmetry in the sense you get to know all this progress happening, but then not your friends wouldn't know, your parents wouldn't know, or anyone else that you talk to would not be in the same what is it, like, information landscape. And that can be very disorienting because you'll be like, hey, I am seeing all this, but then no one else is agreeing with me, or they might just like say, hey, you're just bullshitting or whatever. So I think here you need to know when you should trust yourself versus others. So that's also a very subtle thing. I think here this is where like community helps, where so that if you're trying to do it alone, it can be like very hard, or you might just go with the flow. But if you have like a community where you can, hey, I'm thinking of this. What do you guys think? They can provide some level of navigation. And thankfully, like I was part of the EA, like I had like other community folks, and we were also trying to foster a community where we can have um, a more balanced form of communication. So right now, what happens is like uh, a lot of groups, they have their own incentives. They want to be like they want to put forth their agenda. So there's a lot of motivated reasoning on how information is presented. Uh, Again, like that's like a common thing. It happens everywhere. Um, but still, I think we need a step where we just like discuss without taking sides to understand what's happening. So all this background is to say how I decided. So I realized, yeah, I can focus on tech, leverage my skills in tech to build tools which can either help policymakers or. So I had like a tool-level idea where either you help policymakers to make better policy to navigate AI like progress, and also empower common people, right? Like right now, what's gonna happen is like, okay, you have cheap LLMs, but then no one just directly uses LLMs. Like you need to build a lot of software on top of it, and if the direct LLMs gonna get cheap, a lot of value will be on the products. So I thought, like that will be like gonna be monopolized. So one angle I was looking is like, can we just build open source tools to um, leverage the cheap intelligence, but also use it for like common people can use it. So I can go into the details of that, but just giving a high level idea of like how I decided what steps I could take by orienting myself to these issues.
Yeah, thank you. So any questions so far before we go to the next section? Cool. So we'll be talking about what we're building in the
Yeah,
ACT
we'll
section.
go with the ACT section. It's just, yeah.
So yeah, what projects are we doing? What actions have we taken? Some of the exciting stuff. I just came from Goa. I was in the near Kola Beach running a residency program. So the AI Safety Camp cohort 2025 was started in January of this year. We had a bunch of people from Serbia, from Finland, Canada, Kenya. All of them were working remotely. Jason's here in the room with us. And we all worked on a few different projects, and they all came in person to Goa, and we lived in community, and we tried exploring our relationship to AI. So Groundless Alignment is an organization that I'm a part of, and what we are doing is our approach to AI safety comes from realizing this is a socio-technical problem. You can't just separate out the governance aspect and the technical aspect and treat them separately. This is all connected in a very deep way. And when we talk about alignment, we have to first think about alignment as an ongoing thing rather than a solve it once and forget about it kind of situation. It's a continuous problem that we will have to solve, and our next generation will have to solve, and our parents have solved, and we keep solving it. And the idea of this ongoing nature of groundless alignment, we are having like 3 tracks. I don't know how much time. We don't have much time, so I'll just go to a website. You can talk to me if you want to know more about it. But we have like auto structures where we're building custom interfaces. So instead of having this chat interface, which is very prone to anthropomorphizing the model, calling it names, asking for opinions, and forming parasocial relationship with them, which are fake, and you tend to become an echo chamber. We want to background the AI and focus on the task you're doing. So you focus on the human-human connection. You have, if I want to talk to Bhishma, I can have one of our tools, which is being built by Aditya. You can find him in the conference. Great guy. He's building a way to actually visualize the conversation is beyond just a linear thread of transcript. Jason's working on knowledge integration. How do you actually take analogies and notice what assumptions make them up? To what extent can you make disanalogies or analogies? And there's also one project on integrating these. So when it becomes very easy to make software, it becomes very cheap. Within seconds, you can spin up a whole new app. In a world when that is possible, how do you want to use that power? What type of apps do you want? Do you want to like? You don't want it to be too. Like if you ask people what they want to eat, they might just say I want to eat burgers or sweets, but they're hyper optimized to adversarially attack your senses. And we're already living in a world where we are optimizing for our sense organs without thinking about what is good for us in the long run. And we're going to be seeing that in the generative media space with the reels and with software. So we really want to not be like a human going to an AI and just giving you a vibe coded app. That feels like it's very likely to go bad. So we put humans in the center. We have therapists of sorts. Our team will talk to you, understand your workflow, and clarify what exactly your problem really is. And notice, do you really want AI to come and solve this problem for you, or maybe you are asking to be taken advantage of? So there's like 3 different projects in auto structures. AI 2037 is about forecasting. We don't think it's going to happen like fast takeoff. We think it's going to be continuous and slow. Not slow necessarily, but it's more like we are expecting that AI will continue to have integrity issues. AIs will continue to lie and be like, oh, I fixed this problem. And when you actually check, it didn't fix the problem. It has some sort of like lack of integrity. And then Mosaic is a project that Matt Farr, who's also there in the conference, is working on. You can read the paper. It's part of Blue Dot's, what do you call? Yeah, I think, uh, yeah, it's part of Blue Dot's a technical element reading list. And it's about the sum of the parts not being sufficient. You can't use the reductionist argument of taking something, breaking down into its parts, and studying in isolation. There's a lot of complexity there. This is one of the projects I'm part of. Ooty Retreat is run in Ooty, and we have been running 2 iterations of it so far. We would love more applications for it. It's happened this year also. We have like a week-long retreat where we explore the latest AI, make future predictions on what the next 6 months, 1 year will go. The idea is to practice some of the some projects came out of that this time. The Simulacrum project was birthed there. A lot of people who were kind of curious came there and got really motivated to work on their projects. So I think retreats are really great. Vatsal, who's sitting on the corner over there, is having a space in Bangalore, a co-working space, where we have run events before. We continue to hold events there. That's also one thing that we're very excited about. Uh,
I mean, so this is the project I'm working on currently. So I had a talk before this. Simulacra is basically a simulation slash game where you can take a crisis scenario, take part as certain roles, and then you take actions and then see how it evolves. So the way this is useful, or I feel can be used, is like, so you can either make it like a more like a game where you show the principles of, okay, if I, so right now what happens is like you're just acting as like one person, right? But then a lot of real world scenarios are complex because every individual actor has their own incentives, and we started thinking, hey, why is that person doing it? You wouldn't know unless you are in their seat, and maybe like when you're put in that seat and when a lot of things are happening, probably you will also act the same way, and that gives you uh, the nuance and like much more like higher level thinking of, okay, um, okay, you'll know what type of regulations or what actions that you want to take in the real world that might work. So that's one angle. The other angle is I'm thinking of it as a medium of communication where right now there are like multiple groups even in the AI space, and they don't talk to each other. They just like fight or they just ignore. Like there's EAG, there's Doomers, there's just a cocktail of people. And so why can't like we make these simulations or games and let each community just share it to the others and uh, like let the, and that would foster better communication. Maybe okay, a doomer like thinks of some way, but then they play the game the EAC person made and they can change their mind. So, and this is goes back to the thing where I said bottom up and top down. So bottom up would be like a bit more simple. So right now, if I want to communicate all these AI ideas to my grandmother or mom, it's just hard. Like for them, they ask the simple question, "Hey, it's helping me. It's doing all this cute stuff. What's gonna happen?" So it'll be nice if there's like a simple game I can just make them play, and then they realize, oh yeah, okay, that's gonna be bad. And I also feel in like governance, like I've also been reading a lot about governance, democracy or like Republican constitutional democracy, how it works. Uh, like unless like people are aware and ask their representatives, that's one way to make change. And for that, like a lot of people have to be aware. And the way things are progressing, the agency is like getting eroded each and every day. So a lot of people wouldn't realize unless it's too late. So that's why like we need to be able to communicate these ideas in a much better way rather than just creating. I mean, there are multiple options. I'm not saying comparing them, but I just feel this is like a slightly underappreciated, or maybe it's not, it's slightly neglected. So that's the reason I'm doing. And also there's a simulation aspect where it will be like more high fidelity. So that's the top down versus bottom up angle for simulacra that I'm exploring. And superposition, this is like, this is not active right now, but I'm still excited about it, where um, again goes back to building better world models. Right now, people are quick to collapse, like, hey, this is how the world is, or this can't happen this way or whatever. And superposition, I just use this term because you just want to have like different possibilities, and you're not like collapsing that this is how it is. And so this is more like a group where we just discuss ideas rather than and then like figure things out. Mosaic, act, yeah.
Yeah, so now it's up to you guys. What action will you take? Uh, Feel free to run it by past us, ask others in the community, post it on Less Wrong, EA forum. And I'm excited to see what comes out of this conference. Yeah. Any questions, or I think anything you want to say?
Yeah, that's it. Like we'll open the floor for questions.
I have a very short question. For the Goa and Ooty programs that you're running, what are you looking for? What you uh, what is the eligibility basically?
We did like interviews with each person. So we had an application process where we opened it to anyone. We didn't have any eligibility, and we explained what the plan was. We were planning to not just do technical vibe. So the idea was to take these ideas and test them with actual AI models, like vibe code some stuff, check to see whether are these benchmarks real, do these projects make sense, and all the while also trying to do yoga, meditation in the morning, not being too lost in our heads, remain in our bodies, touch grass, be human beings. Remember that humanity is what we're fighting for. Don't just get lost in computers, which a lot of technical people get lost in. Trying to run a residency. So we explained this to people. We had a conversation. We saw, okay, how many people are actually excited about this idea? They were like, I want to be part of this. I love this idea of running empirical tests. I don't want to just talk. I want to do things. I want to build small projects, use them in the community, and get feedback from each other. So as long as that was there, that was my vibe. I think maybe Bhishma, you had any?
Yeah, the OT one. So it started very informally. We didn't have like an agenda. So the first iteration was just a bunch of our friends. Raghav, we three were there, and then there was two other friends. And only on the this year's thing we kind of opened it for others. But the whole idea was in India, like everyone's scattered, so it's hard for people to collaborate and have focus time. So we just wanted to get everyone together and discuss, but also act. Like because okay, we all have these ideas, but then unless we have like a deadline or some fixed time, nothing happens, right? So it's mainly started with that, and we usually have a couple of themes which rotates. So this time the theme was AI and post rationality, which which we can get back later. But so we don't have a fixed agenda. It's also it's not formal. We're just exploring on the go. So next iteration would be like very different, maybe a bit more formal. But yeah, that's where we are right now. We can share the link
You can
about.
follow us on adityarpita.com. You can book a meeting
Yeah.
with me. You can contact me by email, and yeah, subscribe, share, all those things. Yes.
What I sort of understood from what you're doing is you're trying to build a population simulation model, something like that.
No, actually, I can demo the game later. Like it's not just a population simulation.
Okay, okay. No, but I have, so I don't remember the exact name of this company. I saw something very similar where they basically tried to, like, there were multiple AI agents and they gave each AI agent a particular personality. So you can give personality by like teaching it to behave like you. And then basically they multiplied that and then they made an entire population of New York City. And then they predicted that Joran Mamdani would win the elections. Apparently something like that.
Yeah, that's a so AI agents are being used a lot in economic research because they have good models of like how a person acts. So yeah, but for us right now we are not doing like population level stuff. We are think of have you played Age of Empires or Civilization, something like that. But yeah, like that's our north star kind of. But yeah, we are aiming for that sort of thing.
I think we have one last question.
Let's give chance to others. You can follow it up. Any last questions?
Have you started? So personally, I started losing a bit of faith in model evals as of late, because like everything seems to be saturated. But like over the last 2 years, we do not see that translate into real world impact as such. Yes, there has been some incremental improvement, but nothing too drastic like what you would expect going by what we have seen in with the evaluations. Like you mentioned humanities last exam, but Dan Hendricks is already working on humanities last exam version 2. There's RKGI 2, there's RKGI 3 coming up next year.
Yeah.
So how much should we actually update based on these benchmarks, or are these companies just optimizing for them?
Yeah, I think so. There was a one slide which missed. So there's something called jaggedness in progress. So when you think of like a diagram of different capabilities, right? Like the models are not smooth in the sense that maybe in like math they're like crazy. They get IMO gold and stuff. But then if you ask like a simple
4.9 greater than
yeah. So
4.11.
it's very alien in a way, and I think that's causing like a bottleneck where, okay, let's say for a particular job or something, right? You need all 10 capabilities to be like at least 60. So now maybe in all that, like let's say right now the progress like in 5 it's like superhuman, and then in 2 it's like so terrible, and we have like no idea on like how in each of the dimensions the models are progressing. So that's like that's one issue. So and that's making it hard to see the real world impact because a lot of real world tasks need the roundedness, and models are very jagged. So you need to know. I think the best thing would be like what is like the least percentage and how is the least percentage progressing, rather than just looking at the top percentage. That might help us because that gives like a lower bound on how things progress.
Yeah, and it doesn't like new benchmarks will keep coming up, and
Yeah.
people will keep finding the gaps and making pointers and trying to reify those capabilities. So it's not about 5 to 10 years or 20 years. It's still the fact that the trajectory is there, and we might hit a wall for a while and plateau, but these problems still exist, and we need to solve them. The more time we have, the better. Thank you. So yeah, thanks a lot.